With a name that dates back to the mid-20th century, the Conquest name is one of the most historically important for the brand Longines. When not looking and thinking about the heritage design pieces, it has most closely been associated with the everyday contemporary offering Conquest models with 300 meters of water resistance, its large crown setup and crown guard design, and its large numerals on its dial. However, just recently, Longines announced the release of a new successor to the Conquest collection in a variety of different dial colors and 2 different case sizes, serving now as their mass appealing do-it-all watch under $2,000. And in this video, we do a deep dive review on them and compare them to the previous versions and basically go through everything you need to know before you're looking to buy. Let's jump in. Now, Longines is a very important brand and a brand I don't think a lot of people consider when they're thinking about the greats in the world of watchmaking, producing the first watch with dual time zone, producing a chronograph watch in the early 20th century, decades before other brands were doing so. They were also one of the first for the flyback chronograph, first GMT wristwatch. And if you're not familiar with these type of ideas and you want to learn more, as well as learn about all the different Swiss watch brands, I recommend our article down below looking at some of the best Swiss watch brands in the industry, countless brands on that list, and a great jumping off point to make sure that you're rounding off your watch knowledge and know where to look when you're thinking of Swiss watches. A link to that will be in the description down below. Now, at this point, the backstory of Longines, as I discussed, is pretty well established, but the brand also seems to still be relatively underrated. Being founded in Switzerland back in 1832, and today located within the Swatch Group and serving as one of the single best entry to luxury brands on the entire market. And I would say in recent years, Longines in the enthusiast community and watch collector community has become increasingly more important and I think appreciated as a byproduct of many of their great releases over the last several years. Originally unveiled with the much dressier positioning in 1954, the original Conquest foreshadowed the model family's future capabilities with a screw-down caseback and gasketed crown that offered, for what was at that time, relatively solid water resistance for a watch of the style. In recent years, the Conquest collection has become truly massive, offering a wide range of case diameters, dial colors, complications. We have quartz and automatic versions, and even chronograph models to choose from. For most enthusiasts, the standard time-only Conquest with its prominent Arabic indices at 12 and 6 has been the move, pairing with a versatile design with a ridiculous 300 meters of water resistance and an imposing set of crown guards protecting a crown that was unquestionably large. And while these models were very popular for enthusiasts and the mass market alike, some found the friction between the everyday positioning and also the quirky design traits as being a difficult point, especially that aforementioned crown, lack of lume on certain dial variants, and the oversized Arabic markers. That said, those smaller criticisms never reached a point where the collective watch enthusiast public was demanding an update. However, never being a brand that rests on its laurels, Longines decided it was time to give an update and a facelift to these pieces, now coming with an entirely new look. The Conquest 2023 was announced with 2 case sizes, 34mm and 41mm, with a range of dial colors being available at each size. Given the wider range of separation between the diameters, this without question will leave some collectors in a challenging in-between zone where neither will work perfectly on the wrist. However, given the wide range of sizes from the previous collection, I think there are reasons to feel optimistic for more options in the future, but it's going to have to take some time. For the purpose of this review, we will be focusing on what I would imagine would be the more viable size for the majority of you watching, 41mm. Measuring 41mm across the central case without the crown guards and 43mm with the crown guards, 11.1mm thick and 49.1mm lug-to-lug measurement, the Conquest 2023 presents a wearing experience that will look best on medium to larger sized wrists, wearing relatively true to size if not slightly larger than the proposed case diameter of the 41mm, and we'll be sure to show the watch on a few different wrist sizes so you get more of a complete idea of the 41mm variant and how it's ultimately going to wear. The Conquest case is essentially recreated from the ground up from the previous versions with more rounded, less imposing crown guards and a more narrow bezel. The crown is completely redone, still offering screw down functionality, but in a smaller and more traditional package that is thankfully much easier to grip and not nearly as sharp as the previous iteration. As is often the case with Longines, finishing on the case is excellent for the price point, being a substantial step up from the more utilitarian approach of the previous generation, with vertical brushing along the top and polishing for the vertical case sides, crown, and sloping bezel. Another notable change from the older model to this one is the Conquest 2023 now offers 100 meters of water resistance, more or less what you'd expect from a watch of this style and position, as opposed to the absurdly capable yet probably unnecessary 300 meters of the former version. Along with the drop in water resistance, there is also a very small change in the thickness from around 11.5 millimeters on the older model to just over 11 millimeters here, with the 2023 showcasing a dome screw down exhibition caseback showing off the movement. Anchored between 21 millimeter lugs, we have another change for this Conquest family for 2023, and that is the completely redesigned and frankly much improved bracelet. Where the older model utilized a bracelet that felt more of its price category of just above $1,000, the new bracelet feels and looks of a much higher grade, tapering to a slender 16 millimeters and terminating with a signed push button butterfly clasp constructed from mill components. The fine new H-link offers relatively short links measuring around 7 millimeters in length, alongside a pair of half links measuring just under 5 millimeters, meaning finding a near perfect fit should be manageable. With brushed outer links and polished inner links that are pin adjusted, the bracelet also looks the part and complements the case well and makes this new Conquest a lot more comfortable with the easier drape facilitated by these smaller and more rounded links that are also substantially thinner. Now, still positioned beneath the safety of a flat sapphire crystal offering impressive AR coating on both sides, the entire dial concept has also been changed with the new Conquest 2023 in ways that make it even more mass appealing. Available in 5 colors in an almost oyster perpetual or aquaterra type of move, the primary surface is executed with a sunray effect that offers a prominent shimmer in direct light. At the perimeter, a printed minute track sits just above the level of the central dial, with the sloping transition executed in a slightly brighter and glossier shade of the basic dial color. At the hour positions, faceted, applied, and polished indices include a small sliver of luminescent material that pairs with the lume on the neatly finished blunted Dauphine style hands, in providing at least a measure of nighttime legibility, but certainly falling short of what I would classify as great. At 6, a stepped aperture gives way to a color matching date disc with Conquest and automatic text just above, and the Longines wordmark and applied wing hourglass further up at 12. Compared to the previous dial's oversized Arabic indices at 12 and 6 and the 3 o'clock date indication with a non-matching date wheel, this new dial feels much cleaner and more elegant in its take on the model's basic concept of blending sporty specifications with refinement. Now, turning the watch over, we have actually a view of the tried and tested L888 caliber from Longines. Now, one of the benefits of Longines' inclusion among the Swatch Group's powerful assembly of brands is the heightened level of access and collaboration with ETA, the Swiss powerhouse when it comes to third-party movement manufacturing. In recent years, Longines has utilized a series of calibers designed and produced by ETA, but specifically supplied only to Longines and being assembled and tested at their facility, a process that I saw firsthand when I visited earlier this year. The L888 Longines caliber here is nomenclature for the ETA A31, which itself is a modified ETA 2892A2. It's a slimmer, more upscale alternative to something like the ETA 2824. The movement operates at an altered rate of 3.5 Hertz or 25,200 vibrations per hour, a frequency most commonly associated with Omega's coaxial collection of calibers. With the slower frequency and the large barrel housing the mainspring easily detected when looking at the caliber, the movement manages to offer very solid 72 hours of power reserve while featuring a silicone balance spring in the process. The movement being on display is also a nice value add, as this is far from the worst looking caliber that you're going to find in the price range, with some nice finishes. It showcases perlage on the central upper bridges, a sunray grain finish along its outer perimeter, and waves across the rotor. While not offering COSC certification, each of the 4 variants we had in for testing kept excellent time within the single digits per day, which also is nice to see for an uncertified caliber. In terms of general operation, you have 25,200 vibrations per hour, 3.5 Hertz, does feature hacking and hand winding, hacking stop in the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and a power reserve of 72 hours. But now for some closing thoughts, let's start with some of the cons, then the pros, and then close with some final considerations, especially as it pertains to some of the updates being offered here compared to the previous Conquest models. Now, I think the #1 challenge for these watches are going to be the case sizes as they were rolled out of the gate, as I don't think they overlap with the sweet spot where I would think most potential buyers are. The previous collection 39mm was the most popular, at least from our standpoint, point when we had them on our site. So although if I was a betting man, I would suggest Longines probably will release more of these sizes, there is no sign of that being anytime soon. So that is a bummer for some people out there. Lume on these models is not great, but this collection was really never known for that to begin with. Actually, some of the previous versions didn't even have lume on certain dials. Like the blue one, for example, did not have lume, black one did. Pretty confusing. And although the price bump here is not unreasonable given the upgrades to the bracelet and case, I think you do have to address when a watch is going to go up by over $500 because that is a good chunk of change for just anybody. But now shifting over to the pros, and in general, this presentation is much more buttoned up and well finished overall. The case is substantially more premium. The bracelet is way ahead of the previous generation. And I think the dial is more conducive to a watch that has an everyday positioning. 100 meters is still more than enough. And normally I would make a bigger deal of losing 200 meters of water resistance. But quite frankly, that was overkill for the previous versions. And I would think most people would prefer a thinner case and more elegant crown guard system, as they are diminishing returns when it comes to water resistance overall. And 300 meters is just absurd. And finally, the movement on display with its nice specifications, power reserve, and a finish that is in alignment with the price range, I think is a nice add. And although the previous Conquest was not perfect and it had its quirks, it was no doubt an exceptional watch for the money, and as previously stated, no one was crying about an update. That said, Longines seems to be undergoing a new direction basically on all fronts, starting with product as being that core focus. So as much as there will be some disappointment to some out there that like the previous generation of the automatic Conquest and that those are on their way out, in my opinion, this is an improved package more in alignment with the intended purpose of the collection. And the watch feels every bit of its $2,000 price. And with models like this, the Zulu, the Spirit, and heritage models like the Sector, for example, Longines is undoubtedly on a roll, and this is easily one of those watches now, like the Spirit, but actually coming at a lesser price, probably going to be a leading watch in just this do-it-all segment under $2,000 without question. All right, guys, that's my take looking at the new Longines Conquest. What is your take on this one? In general, again, I think it's a good move by them. I think it's more in alignment with what people were looking for this watch to be. Despite also having that price increase, I think you're getting justifiable advantages and style updates and finishing updates that allow it to feel very much align with that price segment. Love to see comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Would appreciate that because that does help out the channel. Also, definitely check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, including Longines. Quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. How we're able to fund all of our productions, not from the brands paying us to produce any of the content. It's all self-funded here through selling watches on our site. So if you want to support the content, allow us to keep doing what we're doing here, any purchase really does help us out. And I know you can buy a watch pretty much anywhere. Allows us to keep doing what we're doing, and we absolutely love what we do here. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.